and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we need to set the agenda. This is a simple budget hearing. It's a public hearing of the Sherman Village Board of Trustees. Nothing really to add to this agenda. But we do need to set the agenda. Is there a motion to set the agenda? Motion's been made by Trustee Gray, seconded by Trustee Hahn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. The agenda is set. Again, we are in the public hearing portion of the meeting. So I would like to read into the record. Item number 1 is to open the public hearing on the tentative budget and appropriation ordinance commencing May 1st, 2021 through April 30th, 2022. The board members have been presented with the recommended budget for fiscal year 2022. I hope you've had enough time to review that. We've been doing this a number of years, so it should be pretty old hat and pretty customary for you to speed through it pretty expeditiously. The budget as presented, what's that? Doesn't really have much outside the norm and outside the ordinary normal course of business that we're used to operating under. So it funds each and every single line that needs to be funded. We'll say that staff put this together, Administrator Stratton with the department heads. Lisa's funded, obviously, Public Works. Is there anything you want to point out regarding initiatives and projects? Just
I included as a part of the email package that I sent in reference to the capital this fiscal year. This doesn't represent every single thing we're going to do in the next remaining part of this fiscal year, but it gives you an idea of the commitment of funds, not only in this budget, but also in other funds, like, an example, the TIF funds and some of the projects there. The bond fund, which was just issued in 2021, the projects located there. And then equipment and requests and purchases for the police and the public works department. In particular, the police vehicle, which has already been approved by the board in prior meetings, new breath analyzer for the police department, and the consideration of an all-terrain bike path security vehicle for the new trail, which will come online prior to the end of this fiscal year. A vehicle very similar to what Williamsville Police Department has, and we've been looking into. So we added some numbers in there for consideration. Obviously, anything that we purchase, we must come forward for the board and authorize that. Just because it's more approved, doesn't mean a lot of macros go out and purchase things. The Public Works Department also with the Ford 550 and the Ford 350, we have received now in the lot behind us, the Ford 550, the Ford 350. The skid steer Bobcat trailer is something also in consideration for Public Works on public work projects that we can do in-house. Other items that we're looking at is some older park projects that we're looking at for purposes of upgrading some of the fields in a variety of areas, some of the playground, surface material, and also soccer nets for some of our other park areas. And then obviously continuing our E1 purchases and replacement program for our grinder pumps, and the purchase of potentially of a hot seat powered washer for use by our sewer department. And that's it. So that was kind of the general list I provided everybody in reference to the capital and equipment purchasing requests by the department directors, and they are incorporated as a part of this overall budget.
anybody have any questions, any generating discussion, thoughts? Okay,
If I can note a couple of things on the revenue side.
absolutely.
Okay. Under the sales tax, income tax, you'll see also the cannabis tax also here. All this information was provided through estimated amounts through the Illinois Municipal League based on our per capita. So those numbers are reflected there. You also see down in the revenue line, grant income of $622,000. That represents two major grants that we'll be receiving once, actually we're preparing the documentation for reimbursement. One has to do with the American Recovery money that we'll receive. The federal government's giving the state money, in which we'll receive as well. We're supposed to have received it by now, and the state's in control of that. It's going to be the tune, I believe our share is going to be over $450,000, maybe even larger, depending on how our census turns out. The other portion is the reimbursement for expenses up to, I think, $172,000, which we got approved last year for a portion of the COVID related expenses under the CURE grant. So those are reflected in those numbers as well. And I believe that we will be receiving all those funds within this fiscal year, and that's why they're added in that revenue line.
Any questions regarding that? Questions? Okay. So, if everybody's comfortable with moving forward and taking this fiscal year 2022 budget into the regular meeting, we won't make any changes just now. We can in the future if there's anything that needs to be cleaned up. It's a simple, change it and re-vote it, pass it through ordinance. So just because it's written there doesn't mean it's 1,000,000% final. That being said, any trustees seeking recognition? I'm gonna move us to the public comment period then, if everybody's amenable to that. Okay, so at this point, we're gonna open the public hearing, we're gonna open the public comment period regarding the fiscal year 2022 budget. Mr. Clerk, has anybody signed in to speak on the 2022 budget?
No.
Okay, seeing none, then I'm gonna close the public comment period and potentially move to adjournment if there is no further comments or business to come before the board. Okay, so that being said, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn the public hearing of the Sherman Village Board of Trustees for the fiscal year 2022 budget, as well as the public comment period. Is there a motion to that effect? Motion's been made by trustee Long, seconded by trustee Rockford. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, you guys have it. The meeting is adjourned at 5:56 p.m. Okay, so we'll stand at ease for a couple minutes till 6 o'clock to be in accord with the regular meeting agenda, and then we'll get that meeting moving expeditiously. I do have somewhere to be.